Hey everybody, Randy Reviews It here. So today we're going to be talking about the must-have gun accessories for every new gun owner. So you just bought your first gun, whether it be handgun, rifle. I hope it's a handgun because that's where I think most people should start. Handgun offers kind of the most practical use with concealed carry, things like that. So this is going to be mainly focused on a handgun, but you can mostly apply these rules to a rifle, shotgun, or anything like that as well. So let's start off with magazines. You need magazines. Chances are your gun only came with 2 or 3 at best. I recommend that you have at least 5 magazines. Some of them being dedicated concealed carry mags, or home defense mags, or whatever it might be, and then others that you use at the range. You definitely want to vet to make sure that your home defense or carry mags work properly, but overall you should have few mags for the range that you just rotate through. You maybe drop them, you beat them up, they get a little bit dirty. That's why it's nice to have at least 5 mags. More is better if you can get even more than that. I understand that mags are expensive, especially if you're looking at like 2011s, which I wouldn't recommend as your first handgun, but anything H&K and some of these other mags, they get upwards of like $50, and I understand it's rough to buy that, but five is a good starting point. We want to look at reliable and OEM brands. OEM brands just means if you buy a Beretta 92 that you buy mags from Beretta. If you buy a SIG 226 that you buy mags from SIG. Things like that. There's a few outsourced companies that are really good, like Mekgar is a really good brand. They're reliable. You can find things on forums, but you want to make sure that you buy reliable brands or OEM brands. Just buying a mag at your local gun shop or sporting goods store or whatever it might be could be disastrous. A lot of these places sell like pro mags, and those are not reliable. I wouldn't recommend them to anyone. There's a few other brands out there that are pretty bad. Like some of these beat up, like military issue style ones are not, the springs are worn out or anything like that. So buy new, buy OEM or reliable brands, things like that. Next thing that kind of goes in hand with magazines is a mag loader. I think it's Uplula. I don't know how to pronounce it, but Upala or whatever it is. That is probably the best universal handgun magazine loader. It will definitely save your hands, especially if you're out shooting all day, depending on which gun you bought. I know Springfield has really tight springs when you first get it, and loading them is not fun. So getting a mag loader will exponentially make loading mags easier on your hands and less frustrating. So I recommend getting a mag loader. The Upalas are cheap. They're everywhere. You can find them at like Brownells or anything online. Next, a good quality holster. So I'm not talking about a holster that you bought at the same shop that your gun is at, unless it's what you would consider a good brand, like a Safariland or something like that, right off the bat. But a good quality holster. So you got full Kydex holsters, which are going to be easier to reholster things. Their fitment is like exact, and a lot of times they're already cut for like red dots and things like that. It's a little bit easier to get them cut like that. Plus, if you get a bigger red dot or something like that, you can just take a Dremel to them and make things fit well. Make sure you know what you're doing, though, when you get into that. So you got JM Custom Kydex is really great. You got Tier 1 Concealment. You got Henry, Tenacor. T-Rex Arms is making some good stuff. And then the other thing to look at is there's these things called hybrid holsters. So depending on how you want to carry, if you want something more comfortable, that's where a hybrid holster might come in, or maybe a holster like a pad. Like I've done a video on clinger cushions where they connect to the Kydex holster with Velcro basically, and they offer like padding, so it's really nice. You're not getting stabbed by plastic against your skin all day, depending on how you have that holster, where it's at. I'm obviously not carrying appendix, so it's here. I don't want it stabbing me in the side when I lean over, things like that. Those pads are nice. But hybrid holsters are where they have like Kydex or something here, like a plastic of some sorts, and then on the back is leather or neoprene or something like that. So T-Rex Arms has like the iron side ones. Hidden hybrid holsters is, I found, the best one as far as leather combinations. Like their leather's just exponentially softer. It's just softer. It feels better than Vetter or any of the competitors that I've felt. Hidden hybrid holsters, I am an affiliate with, but I spent hundreds of dollars of my own money before I became an affiliate with them because I just like their holsters a lot. My friend Johnny B turned me on to them. He's worked with them. I would have told him straight to his face if they sucked. Unfortunately, they're very, very comfortable. Some of my friends have picked them up, and they've raved about them too. I wish I would have found this earlier. So yeah, hybrid holsters are an option, but make sure you get a reputable one like Hidden Hybrid or T-Rex Arms or something along those. With your holsters, we don't want any gimmicky stuff. So if it's like a shoulder holster or that Urban Carry rip-out thing, we don't want a holster that's not really a holster. We don't want it like a gimmick. Or like, you don't want the holster that just covers the trigger or the one that you rack to get it, out of the holster. You don't want any of those things, so no gimmicks. Just get a good quality holster. We don't want any holsters that are like universal other than like light-bearing ones. So light-bearing ones will usually fit a decent like variation of pistols, but for the most part, your holster should be made for your gun. It shouldn't be, fits XYZ, unless it's a light-bearing holster or something along those lines. No belly bands. So you see ads for them on Instagram all the time. These belly bands that fit there, and they got like this just elastic holster that the thing is fitting in, or something along those lines. It's not going to last. I don't think it's really safe. You definitely want like Kydex or like a good leather holster or something along those lines. I definitely recommend Kydex just so that you can make sure the trigger's covered, nothing getting to it. It doesn't wear like cloth. So, yeah, don't do belly bands or anything like that. All right, next, we're going to be talking about ammo. So getting decent range ammo. And I'm not saying you have to break the bank. I think Blazer does a really good job. It's served me for decades. Blazer is very reliable. It's very reasonably priced. I've even shot their aluminum cased stuff a bunch, and I've never had any issues with it. So Blazer's good. Callaway Ballistics I like. I've shot thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds of Callaway Ballistics over the last few years. Supervel makes good stuff. Phoenix Ammo makes good, and that's Phoenix, F-E-N-I-X. Black Dot Ammunition is pretty good stuff. Winchester White Box has worked for a lot of people. However, that's been pretty sketchy over the last year. But there are a few ammo choices of range ammo that I want you to avoid. And you may not know about it, so that's part of the reason why I started making this video is MaxTech ammunition. MaxTech ammunition is very, very terrible. In my experience, I was having to get a wood dowel and knock out the cases after every time I fired MaxTech ammo. So this was in Glocks, this was in Walthers, this was in Springfields. It didn't matter. This ammo was trash. You could only fire one round, and then you'd have to mess with it. I don't think it's necessarily loaded well, and potentially, has issues there. Freedom Munitions is our number 2 one. Do not buy Freedom Munitions. I've had so many like duds where it's like a light primer strike. it just doesn't go off. So I call them duds, but that's the only ammo that consistently I'd have those types of issues with. Freedom Munitions, it was like almost one out of every mag was like failing on me, and I used to buy a bunch of it, and then when I started shooting a lot, I've noticed all the issues with it. Number 3, Capital Cartridge. So this is on like 2A Warehouse, I believe. They have their brand, which is Capital Cartridge. I got a squib from that about a year and a half ago. I did a video on it, but their ammo is not really good. The remans and all that stuff, it's not really good stuff. I would avoid it. Yeah. So range ammo, get, Blazer, get Callaway, get Supervel, get Phoenix, get Black Dot. If you can get like Federal, like Lawman, I think sometimes pretty cheap. Yeah. Get some of that S&B ammo, I think is pretty decent as well. Now let's get into defensive ammo. So you bought this handgun, let's say, or rifle, to defend your home, to defend yourself, whatever it might be. You should buy range ammo and you should buy defensive ammo. And you should at least shoot your defensive ammo, like maybe a box or two of it, to make sure it feeds through, make sure it does what it wants, and make sure that your aiming is correct with that ammo versus your range ammo, because it will differ between them, even if they're the same bullet weight or anything like that. So good defensive ammo. Lucky Gunner Labs has a pretty good website to show what it does in ballistics gel, which is a rough estimation of how it will perform in flesh, things like that. But you got your Spear Gold Dot, I recommend it. You got your Federal HST, I recommend it. Then you start getting into some of the interesting stuff. So I would say Underwood ammo, the Extreme Defenders, even though they seem like a gimmick, they are not. They perform very well. I've shot ham targets. I've shot pork shoulders. I've shot all kinds of fun stuff like that. And yeah, they perform. They're barrier blind. They're non-expanding, so you don't have to worry about velocity or them expanding to do anything or anything like that. You always get good penetration with them, and they do a decent amount of like disruption with things. I think some of the solid copper expanding bullets are really hitting the market now, and those are something to look at too. All right, let's get into cleaning equipment. So you're going to want CLP or good gun oil. It doesn't have to be some top-of-the-line fancy brand, like Lucas, Slip 2000 or whatever it is. A lot of those will be fine. I use gun butter on a lot of stuff. I like how thick it is. It stays put for the most part, and it does a good job. I also use like Shaolin Performance on some. It's a little bit thinner oil. I do have Lucas. I do have Slip 2000. I would avoid things like gimmicky, like the frog lube type stuff. But yeah, CLP or oil, good stuff. You could use hops. You could use Ballistol, I think is another one that everyone uses. So get you some brushes as well. Nylon brushes. You don't want to get steel ones or aluminum or whatever they might be. They could scratch things up. Brass brushes you very rarely should actually use or need. So I definitely recommend like nylon brushes, and they look like toothbrushes like this. And get you some of those. Get you some rags. So whether it be microfiber cloth or just cheap, garage rags or something like this, they're really good. The last thing for cleaning that I think you need is like a solvent. So CLP, for the most part, will clean and lube your gun. That's what CLP stands for. Clean, lube, and protect. So it does those three things. What it doesn't do great, though, is breaking down the carbon the way that a solvent does. So if you shoot a bunch, maybe get that hops. Maybe get, I like, Battleborn, I think? Or, let me see here. I got some somewhere. Right here. Yeah. So breakthrough. This breakthrough clean technology stuff is really good, and it's a lot safer. So if you have like kids, definitely maybe try to find something besides hops so that you don't like gas them out when they come to visit you in the garage or anything like that. That's Dad's quiet time. He likes to get a little silly off the hops. So breakthrough is really good. It's worked good for me. There's a bunch out there of like solvents and things like that. You're gonna need it once your gun gets really dirty, but for the most part, CLP and oil will go a long way. Next, and I know this video is getting long, but I wanted everything for you guys. So gun storage. I definitely recommend that you store your gun in a safe place. And that means something that kids can't get to, visitors, things like that. I have gun cabinets, I have gun safes, I have, locked cases, things like that. So you could get a Pelican case and just keep it locked whenever guests are around. And then maybe you can keep it on your nightstand when they're not around. If you have kids, I definitely recommend getting something like a quick access, maybe a biometric or pass-coded like safe instead of something with a lock. You want it to lock, you want to keep them out of it, but you also want to be able to access it quickly. So that's where things like Vault-Tec come out. You can get other biometric safes and things like that to protect your guns from people that shouldn't be accessing them. I'm not saying, get it for like if robbers rob your place or if your place burns. It doesn't have to be a fireproof safe. Just something to keep people who shouldn't be accessing your gun from accessing your gun. All right. Tools. Moving on to tools. If you are a modern shooter and you choose red dots on anything, whether it be pistol or gun, I think you should get a Wheeler fat wrench. It's a wrench that does torquing. It looks like this. And you can set your torque to whatever inch pounds you need. And it's really, really good, especially for putting dots on pistols. Something that's very easy to over torque. And if you break a screw off in your pistol slide, you're going to have a bad time. So I think a Wheeler fat wrench is something that everyone should have. It's very easy to use. They're reasonably priced. I think I have some links for Wheelers in my links in the description, things like that. Wheeler stuff is good. Pin set. You should have a pin set. So be able to knock pins out of your firearm, whether it be an AR or something. It's basic maintenance to be able to take it apart, clean it, and put it back together. And you will need these pins or punches or whatever you want to call them. You can get a cheap set off Amazon. It doesn't need to be made out of brass or gold or anything fancy like that. Just a good pin set so that you can drive pins in and out whether or not when you need to. Next thing is bits. So there's going to be a lot of different Torx bits that you're going to need. There's going to be potentially different Allen bits that you're going to need. So getting a good bit set, I've cracked a bunch of Torx bits before. You really have to invest in a good set. So I think things like Wheeler, I think on Amazon there's one called like Weeha or some of those German ones. Those are really good. You can get them for pretty reasonably priced. They're not crazy expensive or anything like that. But getting good bits that aren't going to break, that are correctly sized, that are correctly machined, goes a long way, especially if you need like extended ones or anything like that to get into small areas. So getting good bits. You want to be a decent bit driver as well. Right here, I got this actually. It's a Craftsman one. And this has an extension on it. Let me set down my solvent here. It's got an extension so I can make it longer. If I just want it right here to work. It's also ratcheting. So it's really nice. It saves on the wrist. You can go either way. With the ratchet, you can extend it. It takes all the bits. This is a very good driver. I really like these, especially these extending ones. Sometimes you can get them where they're flexible as well. But getting a good driver. Why do you need this if you buy a fat wrench? because with a fat wrench, you should never be taking screws out of anything. You don't want to mess up your torque. So this is for taking things out or for getting things started. The fat wrench finishes it at the correct torque for the screws. You also want to get a nylon or a brass hammer. Sometimes they're even both. But basically a little gunsmith hammer to knock pins in and out. Like kind of what we talked about with the punches and the pins before. You're going to need a small hammer to do so. If you get a nylon one, you're likely not to mar your finish, leave big chunks out of it. You don't want to use like a claw hammer or anything like that. So get an actual gunsmithing hammer. It'll go a long way. Next, we're going to be talking about vices. So this is a little bit controversial because there's vices that can be very expensive that are made for firearm stuff, like what I have here, this Real Avid. And they have some pros to them. I'll do a separate video on it. But you're going to need a vise regardless. And if you don't get like a Real Avid or a gunsmithing one, if you just get a normal bench vise, that's fine. But make sure you get like wood blocks or nylon or even like padded blocks, maybe some styrofoam or something on there. You don't want to use like the steel teeth of a vise to hold your gun in place. It's going to be a bad time. You are going to need a vise at one point or another, whether it be rifle or pistols, I think. So you should get one. The last thing, cleaning mat. So you don't necessarily need a cleaning mat, but they're pretty nice. The one behind me has like little magnetic dishes, which is nice if you're taking tiny screws out of things, if you're trying not to lose parts, if you're putting pins somewhere, anything like that. It's really, really nice for those. It goes a long way. It will save you some headaches, especially if you're looking for like retaining springs or retainers or anything like that when you're around an AR-15. All right, so we're 20-something minutes in. I went through those, I feel like, as quick as I could. I think that's a great starting point. If you follow all those, you shouldn't be in trouble. You should be able to do all of your regular maintenance on your firearm. It should run well. It should feed reliably from the magazines that you purchased. And it should be safely kept from people accessing it that shouldn't. And you can carry it safely if you get a good holster. So if you're this far, thanks for sticking with me. I hope you like, subscribe, all the fun stuff. I have my link in the description if you want to see what I recommend on some things. I mean, a Wheeler fat wrench is like the only specific item I think people should get. Everything else, it's up to your personal choice. But thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.